Welcome back. In this sixth of a series of 6 podcasts about Nazi Jewish policy 1933 up to 1939, we're going to focus in on the turning point year of 1938, and in particular what was called Kristallnacht, or Crystal Night, which was the night of the 8th to 9th of November 1938. Okay, so what we've seen so far is we've looked at Nazi views and how Hitler treated the Nazis as scapegoats as part of his rise to power, and how in the early years, 1933 to 35 in particular, he had to tread very carefully. Jews contributed too much towards economic recovery for him to take violent action against them, but laws were passed that separated them. And in particular the Nuremberg laws, which was the first turning point, and there were those 3 key laws: the citizenship law, the blood law and the flag law, that clearly defined their status. And then we finished the most recent podcast by looking at the quiet years 1936 to 37. This is a time when Hitler has now brought full employment. The economy by 1936 it has largely recovered. Certainly unemployment is down, and Hitler is now very much sort of gearing the economy towards rearmament, preparation for war. But this is a danger zone. It's a dangerous time for Hitler. He's got to go through a sort of risky period in which, by pushing the boundaries of the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, by breaking the terms of Versailles, by, for example, increasing the size of her army, by rearming Germany, and other actions, he is at risk of upsetting the British, the French and the Americans, who could very well invade Germany, and he doesn't want to do that. He's presenting that front of being a peaceful leader. So he needed to ease off, and anything that may upset the Allies, including Jewish policy. So these were quiet years. Now we move into the year 1938 and this central event, and basically the key theme of 1938 is this: Hitler learned that basically the Allies were not going to stop him. He could break the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, and Hitler learned what he had already suspected for many years, that the Allies were weak and did not want to go to war against him. And therefore what had until now been a sort of major break, it had slowed down an extreme policy, now disappeared. From 1938 onwards, Hitler is very much set on preparation for war as quickly as possible. And therefore violence against the Jews was no longer really an issue for him to avoid as we move into 1938. Okay, so just a few brief words about how Hitler broke the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. He started to do it in 1935. The Treaty of Versailles had reduced the German army to 100,000 men. In March 1935, Hitler introduced conscription. That was a blatant breach of the terms of the treaty, yet the Allies didn't stop him. Then in March 1936, a year later, Hitler took his biggest gamble up to that point. Now, you will remember the terms of the Treaty of Versailles said that the Rhineland area had to be demilitarized. Germany wasn't allowed to keep any soldiers in the Rhineland area, the part of Germany that bordered France. In March 1936, Hitler ordered troops to move into the Rhineland. If the French had resisted, if they had chosen to, then Hitler had secretly given orders to pull the troops back out of the Rhineland. He couldn't afford to risk a war with France at that point, because France would win that war. But the French did nothing. They protested, but they did nothing, because they weren't prepared to do anything unless the British stood with them, and the British were not prepared to go to war over what they saw basically as a reasonable demand by Hitler. So Hitler got away with occupying the Rhineland. Then, again, 1937, fairly quiet years, but as we move into 1938, Hitler then did his next major move against the terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Now, to the east was the country of Austria. Remember, Hitler was Austrian, and Austria was a German-speaking country. And many Austrian people, Hitler included, had always wanted Austria to be part of Germany, to merge the two countries together, to create a greater Germany, what we call an Anschluss. And don't worry about that word, we'll do that more in the next session about Nazi Germany at war. And basically in March 1938, Germany occupied Austria. But the Austrians didn't resist, because many of them wanted Austria to be part of Germany. But it was a blatant break of the Treaty of Versailles. Hitler had created a large Germany by invading in Austria. And so Hitler now is absolutely clear that he can get away with breaking the Treaty of Versailles, and the British and the French and the Americans are not going to stop him. Okay, so that's sort of the context for what then happened as we move into 1938. So Hitler was feeling more confident, okay, no longer worried about foreign opinion, okay. He's learned that the Allies, especially the British, were weak. Now, on the night of the 8th and 9th of November, this event happened, okay. It started with a spark, as is often the case. It was in a different country, in Paris, in France. A young Jew shot a German who happened to be a member of the Nazi Party in Paris. And basically what happened then is Hitler ordered the stormtroopers, the SA, but also the SS, and also the Gestapo took part in it, but it was mainly the stormtroopers, the brown shirts, across the whole of Germany to take revenge for that killing, because the assassin was a French Jew, okay? So there were revenge killings across, there were revenge, it wasn't just killings, but it was basically raids, it was attacks against Jewish property throughout Germany. So Jewish homes were attacked, Jewish churches called synagogues, make sure you learn that word, were attacked, and Jewish businesses were attacked across one awful night of violence across the whole of Germany. Now, it was very much the stormtroopers. If you look at the picture to the right there, it shows Jewish businesses being attacked by stormtroopers. It was very much the stormtroopers. But many of the stormtroopers were out of uniform, and Hitler did that deliberately because he wanted the world to feel it was the German people who were attacking the Jews. It was a clear message that the German people are fed up with the Jews. Hitler blamed the Jews. Yet again, Jews are becoming the scapegoats. So those events, called the Night of the Broken Glass, after the shop windows that were smashed on that night and scattered the pavements the next morning, there are some key statistics which you do need to learn. So really learn those. 815 shops, 191 synagogues, 91 Jews were killed, and this one here is significant. For the first time, Jews were now being sent to concentration camps. Jews were arrested, 20,000 of them were arrested on that night, and they were sent to concentration camps. Now, until then, concentration camps were mainly used for socialists, for communists, for undesirables such as tramps, people who were work shy, who hadn't been working hard, but not specifically for Jews. But now, for the first time, Jews were being targeted, which is why we call this a turning point. Okay, it was the beginning of a new era. It was the first occasion in which there was organised violence against German Jews. What there were left, and there weren't that many left by this point, but nevertheless, there was a clear message. Finally, in the exam you may be asked about the importance of Kristallnacht. And if you ever asked about the importance, what exactly does that mean? It means what happened as a result, what were the consequences, what were the effects? Well, first of all, the Jewish community was basically fined 1 billion marks and forced to pay for the damage caused by Kristallnacht. Hitler's view was, why should German insurance companies pay for that damage? Secondly, 3 days later, on the 12th of November, Jews were banned from owning or running businesses. That was an important law. It was called the Law for the Exclusion of Jews from German Economic Life. It clearly showed that Nazi policy was now radicalised, made extreme, use that word radicalised, and as a result, the few remaining Jews those Jews that were left now try to emigrate. But very sinisterly, many of the foreign countries that they had been emigrating to now closed their doors. So, for example, many Jews tried to emigrate to France, but the French pushed the Jews back into Germany, so they literally had no place to go. So, as we move into 1939, it really was a desperate situation for German Jews. And then, of course, on the 1st of September, Germany invaded Poland, which marked Hitler's first step eastwards for living space, after having absorbed Austria and part of Czechoslovakia into Germany in 1938. And Britain declared war on Germany 2 days later on the 3rd of September. By occupying Poland, Germany had 3 more million Jews to deal with. The problem was getting worse in Hitler's view. So there are some questions on this. Again, pause and you see the answers on the next screen, and that completes this series of podcasts about Jewish policy, 1933 to 39. Thank you.